New York needs a hero, and instead they got 4. Here's your look at the brand new Playmates toys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Leonardo the Leader. Leo's the leader. Well, he wants to be. He dreams of leading his brothers to become an unstoppable crime-fighting team. So what if no one takes him seriously? Oh, I'm quite sure this review will be filled with kicking and katanas. Okay, maybe more the second. I haven't been kicking for a long time. I don't even think I've stretched properly even before doing that. Before, though, we get a closer look at the brand new Mutant Mayhem Leonardo. As well, I'd like to thank the folks over at Playmates Toys, who did make this review possible by sending over not just Leonardo, but the rest of the turtle quartet that we will be looking at in the upcoming reviews. Leonardo, though, in the meantime, is about 4.5 inches in height, or the figure is going to be 10.5 centimeters tall. Do excuse me for a second, just before we actually look at the accessories that come included with Leo. I did also want to bring in the actual packaging that comes included with these figures, not only to showcase all the lineup of figures that we will be getting, not only the Turtle Brothers, but also Splinter, Rocksteady, Bebop, Superfly, and Leatherhead. But down below as well, you can't cut this out if you'd like to keep this for yourself. The only downside to it is it's not completely a rectangle. You can kind of see, again, this would have conformed to the shape that they designed for the packaging, so Leo's card does get a little sort of messy on the end of it, but I do like these little file cards. I'm really tempted, in fact, to cut these out and start to save them as we, of course, we look at the rest of the turtle lineup. Let's move that out of the way for right now. Back to the figure's accessories. Like with the original retro toy line, Leonardo comes included with a weapons rack. Now, I haven't actually yet taken off any of these accessories. I might still decide to do that. I kind of like the idea of keeping them on the actual rack myself, but if you did want to remove it, you get yourself 3 daggers, you get 1 shuriken, 1 pizza, although judging by the fact it's gray, I don't know if I would be consuming that. You seem to get yourself a mutagen canister complete with handle, and then onto the side, you've also got yourself a smaller little dagger as well. What's cool about the rack is, if you decide you want to remove these, there seems to be as well pegs onto the sides that you can at least take the provided daggers and the provided ninja star, and you can also just hook those onto the side or along the top. So there's some storage available as well. And because, of course, the back of it does have an angle to it, you can actually rest it. I think that's a nice touch. I don't know, maybe for right now I'll keep it on the weapons tray, but maybe a little bit later I'll decide to remove these, because I do like the idea of being able to at least remove them, and normally the tray would then just be discarded or thrown away in recycling, but being that they were smart enough to actually add pegs all the way around the outer frame, you can again at least take off 4 of the accessories and mount those onto the rack. And I guess you probably could use the other turtle racks as well, those accessories, and just kind of use 1 or 2 racks instead of all 4. The figure also comes included with a tiny pre-mutated turtle. I would imagine this would be one of the turtles before they start to transform. He's a cute little guy. It looks like he's almost smiling. He's molded here in all this kind of neon plastic. What's weird, though, is he does have a peg on the underside of his body, and I don't really know what that hole is exactly for. It's not like it necessarily attaches anywhere on the turtle's body, not that I can see at least. I'm sure it serves a purpose, but a purpose I don't really know of right now. You can see how close the colors are as well for the Leo, just a little bit larger in scale. And there's no, of course, any articulation on that, but a cute little turtle nonetheless. The figure also comes included, like always the case, he comes included with a pair of katanas. You may already notice there's a stretch mark, a crease in the actual plastic. You probably even notice it more so when I flip it around this side. The katanas fit in his hand quite well, in fact, easily. You can just simply take the handles of the katanas, fit that into his hand, but that's not the thing that caused the stress mark. You'll see in a second. And then the other katana, you just easily fit into his hands. So he holds the katanas quite well. But always the case when it comes to Leo, there's storage on the back of his shell. You simply just spin the figure around, and located on the back of the shell, there is a compartment space to store the katana blades. And therein lies the part that I end up having to cause stress marks to this one blade, because there is one section, I'm just going to remove them both for right now. If you flip it around to the back, there is easily one area where you can take the katana and, no difficulty at all, slide it down. You can also use that katana as well. You can slide it into it. It doesn't really matter. They're the exact same blade. But the problem that I had, though, was this one right here. It doesn't look to be the case, even if I run my finger behind it, that there's anything obstructing the inside canal that, for all intents and purposes, I should be able to take the blade and slide it through as easily as I did with this one. But Hitting it, I'm immediately treated to a roadblock. I don't know what's blocking it exactly. I might have to even take myself something thin like a steak knife, I don't know, to try to fit and wedge that opening a little bit more than what it is. But I had a harder time to put the blade in. It does go all the way in, but there is clearly a place where it gets hung up. And even then, this is the part that caused the stress mark. When I went to remove the blade, I moved it with such force, just assuming I'd be able to pop it out, and I ultimately bent the blade a bit when I was trying to remove it. Now, if you think to yourself, well, couldn't you just use the other blade? No, the blade seems to be the same issue. It's the case both sides, actually. So I don't know, maybe this one does have a little bit of maybe plastic, something that's left behind inside when they first molded it. But either way, it does look like it's hollow, but something is blocking and preventing the blade from going all the way in. Still, though, I'd be likely displaying Leonardo anyways with the swords in hands. It's not going to be a deal breaker for me, but yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing thing that I ended up causing. Well, it wasn't that one. It was this one right here, a little stress mark on the blade itself. Speaking of the blades of the katanas, the blades are matching that of the weapon's tray, so they're kind of more of a gunmetal silver. It's a shame that that stress mark is now there. The guard as well as the hilt have been colored in kind of more of a caramel brown. There's a little bit of also indentation there on the sides of the handle. But again, I like the idea that they've actually taken the time to paint the katana. Sometimes it's usually a case they may have just molded it and kept the gray for both the handle, the hilt, and the blade. At least they took the time to actually paint the guard and the hilt as well. Putting those all to the side, let's get now a closer look at Leonardo. You know, I'm quite excited for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and I hope that that eventually spins off to some future sequels. I personally like the designs of the turtles. They're sort of more a little lankier than in the arms, like the legs, for example, and Raphael is going to be the stockier. He seems to always be the bigger of the bunch now. Donatello, Michelangelo, all of which we will be looking at in upcoming reviews, they have very unique characteristics to them. It's not clearly just a copy and paste. Leonardo, for example, as you'll see in future reviews, is a little bit different than the other turtles that we're about to have a look at. One thing I will say to the credit of Playmates, not only have they sculpted a really interesting looking turtle that has me interested right away for this future line, but I do like and appreciate the way they panel line the areas of his mouth. See the sections of the teeth, they've actually put a little line inside there so you can actually see, unlike the earlier turtles from the back in the days of the 80s, this one actually has clearly indications of where his teeth start and end. I do like the way they've also outlined the areas of his eyes. It's a really interesting looking turtle, and I'm again really excited for this line. On the back of the shell, it looks to be just a case where they've molded this all in that same caramel color. You've got the strap, of course, that makes up the majority. Well, it wraps around the front of his body, and a familiar sight, he does have the little L there on the front of his belt. A couple of non-removable shurikens are painted in silver, as well as the buckle strap, the part that feeds the belt through, has also been painted nicely in silver too. He does have, again, like the bandana, he has an elbow pad and a wristband that has the same matching colors of the blue. And actually, you know, the blues, if I put them up, they're only just a little bit darker than the headband he wears. The headband on the back does have some decent sculpting. It doesn't look like it's actually posable, but at least they did use a softer plastic. So when it comes to the articulation on the figure that we'll look at in a moment, it doesn't seem at all like the bandana gets in the way of things. Yeah, all in all, it's a good-looking figure. The only thing about the figure is, when it comes to the feet, and this is more so to the articulation end of things, he doesn't have anything other than just a swivel in his feet. So when it comes to displaying this guy in the shelf, he has a hinge here at the top of his thigh, which easily moves forward and back. He also has a hinge in his knee, which is fine. But when it comes to his feet, I notice with Leonardo, and it might be also the case when we look at their other turtles, I almost have to always have the feet swiveled outward. If I swivel them inward, he seems to not have the proper balancing issues, or he seems to have more of a balancing issues unless I bring the thighs a little further forward. And you can kind of see he has to lean a little bit further forward in order to stand properly. One thing also was interesting to note about these new turtle toys is the fact that you have really large hexagonal peg holes on the undersides of their feet. That is a very unique shape and a very unique size that I wonder if this plays a role for something future that we might be getting, possibly even vehicles. Can't wait. For the figure's articulation, though, the top of the head of Leonardo does rotate back and forth. It seems to be on a ball joint, so you can move the head down, you can move the head up. You also can rock it back and forth as well. Shoulders do rotate all the way around, somewhat all the way around. Obviously, it's going to start to hit the shell, and it's going to stop right there. But for all intents and purposes, normally, it would be able to rotate all the way around. Figure's forearms swivel back and forth. There's also just a single straight hinge, so it can move the elbow back and forth this way, and the hands rotate all the way around. Leo doesn't have any articulation here for the waist, so it's all basically one big body, but he does have at least legs. So, well, beyond just the legs. He does have hinges in his legs, so you can move the legs forward to about there. You can't do quite a full sitting position, and you can also as well hinge the legs out. Now, in order to hinge the legs, you have to swivel the legs this way, because of course the joint, the hinge, has to face the direction in which the legs want to go. So if you want to do like a karate kick for Leo, you have to swivel the legs around in order to make that hinge face the direction that you want. And from there, you can almost get a full splits for Leonardo. The legs do have a single hinge in the knee. You can also rotate the lower leg. And as already mentioned, the figure only has just a straight swivel in the leg. I thought maybe they may have put a ball joint in there, but it seems to only be a case that they pegged it in. So you only can swivel it back and forth. And still strange to see that we have such large pegs on the undersides of the figures, and yet for right now at least, it doesn't seem to serve a purpose. All in all, it's a good-looking Leonardo. My only real issue with the figure isn't so much necessarily well, his posability is one thing. I do kind of wish that they could have put maybe ball joints or something at the base of his legs, or where his feet, of course, attach to the rest of his legs. The other thing really being the case is, and it might only just be mine. Oh, there's the figure falling over. It might also just be mine, is I do wish that the back of the shell where he actually stored the katanas would have stored it better than what they did. It stores fine to this one. It doesn't store fine to this one, though. And because of that, unfortunately, one of my katanas, carelessly, I left behind a little crease. Other than that, though, a nice-looking figure, though, and I'm really excited. I'm not only excited for a brand-new toy line, because it's been a while since we've gotten ourselves a brand-new toy line from the folks over at Playmates when it comes to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff. I'm glad to see that we are getting back to sort of the basics when it comes to turtle toys. Not only getting a brand-new toy line, but as well a brand-new movie to go along with it as well. I find myself digging the designs that they went with the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And I'm not just talking about the four brothers either. All of the Turtle brothers, first of all, don't follow the same Control-C, Control-V format where we have to have all the characters look the same. And it hasn't really been the case with the last couple of Turtle series anyways, where all the characters have to all look the same. I do like that all the Turtle brothers have sort of characteristics go along with, well, the types of bodies that they have. Leo is lanky, but he's not as lanky as, say, for example, the Brains Donatello. Raphael naturally would be a bigger, bulkier character, and Michelangelo sort of seems to be the smallest of the batch. I kind of like the way that they designed it, but what I like a lot more is also the designs that they went with for the villains, like Rocksteady and Bebop have almost a caricature design to them. Rocksteady has an overly sized face. Bebop, of course, has a big, large belly. And I just really think that they're going with a cool direction when it comes to the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. Whether that will, of course, translate nicely to plastic, so far what we've seen and what I've seen with the Turtle Brothers that I've gotten from Playmates toys, I'm liking the look of these, not just from the movie standpoint, but just as brand new Turtle toys. I like the brighter colors that they went with Leonardo. Granted, yes, for his katana, it's going to have a harder time, at least for me at least, to store the katanas on the back of the shell. So that's not a deal breaker. It's just a bit of a bummer that I can't store the katanas, both of them at least, on the back of Leo's shell. I like the character panel lining that they put around the eyes and around the teeth to really accent the facial features. And while the figure does have some decent articulation, the only thing about it, though, is I've noticed that with Leonardo, and it might even just be the case with the rest of his turtles as we look at those in the upcoming reviews, that I have to have Leonardo sort of angled forward. Just because the feet don't have anything other than just a peg swivel, it means that for me, at least, I have to have Leonardo kind of, well, a little bit more leaning forward in order to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have full ankle articulation other than just the swivels back and forth. But what do you guys think of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem? First of all, are you excited for the movie? And second of all, what do you guys are you guys digging as well the designs for these brand new toys? Let me know down below in the comments section. Big thank you once again to the folks over at Playmates Toys that did provide the sample of the brand new Turtles Mutant Mayhem figures that we could have a look at. We have started, of course, obviously with the Leonardo, but we will, over the course of the next several reviews, looking at the rest of the Turtles as well. So there's lots of turtle things to come your way. As always, guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. But if you guys are also wanting to stick around for the rest of the reviews of the Turtles, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and make sure you're also turning on the bell notification. Of course, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.